Good day. Today I'm gonna discuss to you and share to you the concepts coming from strategic management and costing systems or techniques. So this will be a two-part series, so stay tuned for our discussions. For that, we are going to have two parts, by the way, but allow me to show to you first the objectives of this chapter. First and foremost, we have to know that as learners, we should be able to understand the process of the activity-based analysis. Now, I've already issued like two parts of activity-based costing techniques and systems, and as well as also the management. So the management is the theory, while the application or the practical application would be the ABC. So activity-based costing. Make sure to check those. And that's why in this particular first half, I wouldn't deal with activity-based costing and management much, except that I'm going to recap some important things. Then after that, identify the usual statistical control techniques applied in quality management or QM. Then we also have to determine the effects of learning curve with the total labor costs, apply SPA, which means strategic profitability analysis, then prepare the journal entries using the backflash or backflush costing system in its different trigger points, understand the theory of constraints or TOC, and relate it with throughput accounting, then explain customer profitability analysis, all right, or CPA. So those items will be tackled in the chapter particularly. For the introduction, let's have here the theory and the techniques or the costing systems employed. So example coming from the previous chapter, make sure also to watch the discussions about strategic management perspectives or theories. So here are the management models. We have the JIT or just-in-time philosophy, and then the application of that, the techniques to be employed would be the buck-flush costing systems, theory of constraints, throughput accounting, and so on. All right, so for the first half, we are going to deal with A, B, C, and M, so the activity-based accounting or management and activity-based costing, as well as the life cycle analysis and life cycle costing. So for the rest, they will be tackled perhaps in the second part. So we will see. All right, so here we are in activity-based costing or ABC. As what we've said that in the traditional times, we are basically allocating the costs. So remember, there are three components of cost. We have direct materials or raw materials, the direct labor, and the factory overhead, also known as production overhead or manufacturing overhead. So these are the three components of the costs. So remember, raw materials, direct labor, and factory or production or manufacturing overhead. Now, for the first two, it's clear cut, it's simple. For raw materials, we just have to base it as to perhaps the number of units of raw materials used in producing goods. Direct labor would be the number of hours rendered in the production of the goods. That's for the first two. While for the factory overhead, for traditional application or cost application, it will just be the total of the factory overhead divided by a certain cost driver, wherein the cost driver is a certain activity that triggers the cost. So basically, that's how it is that the analysis is being employed or done. And then that's our basis to allocate to certain two or more products. So we have to, for example, consider direct labor hours. So for example, product one, these are the number of the hours, 10,000 hours. Then product two, 20,000 hours. We get the total 30,000 hours. Whatever is the total of the factory overhead, we divide that with the 30,000 hours, and that is our POR, predetermined overhead rate. So for those who are done with cost accounting part one, that's the discussion or concept from there. Now, that has been employed in traditional world or environment because it was more on labor intensive or oriented production environment. However, in the modern times, of course, we have known that starting the industrial revolution, that was like decades, years ago, right? So those times paved the way for usage of machines or machineries in the production, which becomes or which became rather a certain machine-intensive environment. With the usage of machines, then lesser labor or direct labor costs are employed or used in the production, and more of these costs are transferred on the depreciation related to the machinery, so more on the fixed overhead. Now, the question would be, shall we still use the traditional one, or are we going to make use of this ABC costing, which is the costing demanded by the fact that we are now more on machines, on the capital intensive items, and also we employ more on the factory overhead? The answer is that it depends upon the company. Some companies would rather make use of the traditional ones despite the facts surrounding or the circumstances surrounding. It's because it is easier, perhaps. It's for practical expediency. So the company is just a small, medium-sized enterprise or even the micro one. So instead of investing energy, investing the resources on the ABC costing, because mind you, this is going to be costly initially, but in the long run, ABC would produce more benefits than the traditional. But let's just say that they are just using it for the sake of using it because it is what they can do for now. But for the globally related and for the international companies or businesses, they are going to invest into ABC costing because they, of course, know the management will really know, especially those in the top management and those related with looking into the strategic ones, that activity-based costing, wherein the factory overhead will be analyzed for each cost based on a certain cost driver or activity driver, in which that would be made into use in order to improve the costing. Because when costing has been improved, then pricing can also be improved in the long run. All right, so that's the point of using activity-based costing. Now, there's a highlight here, an activity driver, that is the cost driver, which causes the costs to change, either increase or decrease, or perhaps not to. Certain examples of activity drivers are the following. So we have the number of batches, setups, material moves, etc. So for every driver, there will be a certain cost associated. So it's like they're matched. Activity or cost drivers can be identified per level. So do you remember the kinds of variabilities that we have discussed in those two sessions of activity-based costing? So remember, we have the unit level, the batch level, the product sustaining, and the facility sustaining level. So those are the four variabilities. And then remember, factory overhead is an indirect cost, so it is not related to a product or process. Therefore, it has to be allocated among the products. So the point of activity-based costing system. Allow me also to review the sample problem, but I've again discussed, I would suggest you revisit it there because I will not be discussing this entirely. I will just be picking points. So in terms of allocating again the cost, remember for traditional, we just have to apply one cost driver to the total factory overhead. That's 8 million pesos divided by the total of 6,000 hours for product one and product two, 20,000. We get 400 pesos per direct labor hours. On the ABC costing system, anyway, this is simplified. So it's as if that what triggered this factory overhead is just a setup time. But of course, you have known that there can be so many costs containing factory overhead. Since to simplify factory overhead, any cost to produce the products that is not raw materials and direct labor will be part of factory overhead. Okay, so that's how definitions are simplified. Okay, so 8,000 per setup hour. Now, if we allocate using traditional costing and ABC or activity-based costing, we can just notice that the prime costs, by the way, composed of raw materials and direct labor, would be the same. So no question. The question will be on the factory overhead. In factory overhead, that would be whatever is the respective 8 million total, then we are going to allocate that. So if you can remember, we have the 400 pesos per direct labor hour for hours. Then we have 400 times the direct labor hours for product 1 of 6,000. So that's why we get, okay, 6,000 hours times 400. That's going to give us, if you are holding your calculators, that's 4,400,000 or 2.4 M. Divided by 20,000 units, we get 120. So that's how it is. So I repeat, that's just 400 times 6,000 hours. And then for product 2, 400 times 14,000 hours divided by the number of units produced respectively, which are 20,000 and 80,000 units. Okay, for activity-based costing, so similar process except that the denominator now will be the number of setup hours so that the overhead rate per unit or per hour or setup hour is 8,000 pesos. We multiply that with the number of setup time for product 1, 900, and for product 2, 100 respectively, and we divide that with the number of units produced, which are, again, 20,000 and 80,000 respectively, so that we will get the following unit costs for TC and ABC. 240, 480, 270, 210. So what can we observe? When production is lower or decreased at 6,000, right? Hours, okay, so direct labor hours, 900 hours for setup time. Production is 20,000. So 20,000 lower than 80,000, of course. Forgive me, guys, if I kept on scrolling up and down because we have to do that. So just pause if there's a need for you to look into the details. Okay, so 20,000 and 80,000. And then when the production is lower, 20,000, we can notice that the ABC unit cost is higher. But when the production is higher, the ABC unit cost is lower. So this is the point of considering the economies of scale, which is a concept in economics, that when production is higher or at its peak, the cost would be very high because it only means that the denominator is little. It's just like riding a bus. When only one is riding with the same total payment, of course, then the payment needed would be higher. Just like for a fixed rental of a van. But of course, we have known that in a bus, the payment for the fare is really fixed, right, per person. But I'm talking about like, if, for example, you have to pay the entire payment of the rent for yourself, it's fixed. So the more people there are, then the more people would share, the lesser the cost would there be. And that is the basic concept, that is economies of scale. Economies of scale is for one product, but if we have multiple products now, or types of costs, we now call that economies of scope. Okay, so at least we can connect concepts from economics here. And then, what about though for the traditional? We can notice that at this level, for product 120,000, the TC is low. So at lower units, it's low. At higher units, it's high. So, which means that it does not follow the concept of economies of scale. Supposedly, the more units there are produced, then the lesser the cost would there be. Like, this is about total cost. This is not like our concept that we have learned in cost behavior. Okay, guys, so we try to connect, we try to set a demarcation line or connect the dots. So in cost behavior in the short run, of course, we have learned that for variable cost, it's going to change per activity. So it's going to vary. The more activities there are, the greater the cost, right? And that's true for prime cost, of course. But for factory overhead, there can be variable, but the more would be on factory overhead because we are now capital intensive, by the way. So what is the behavior for factory overhead fixed? The more units there are, the lesser the unit cost there will be, right? So that's the point that in ABC unit cost, supposedly it should also behave in relation to the fixed counterpart. That's the point. But for if we use the traditional, it's like a variable one, or the cost is variable, wherein it goes in proportion to the level of activities. All right, so I hope that is clear. So that's the reason why we apply ABC costing. And there is the mention here that this is the effect of peanut butter costing, wherein in activity-based costing, it's like we apply peanut butter, that if the bread is little or small, then we just have to apply little. But for example, with the same amount of peanut butter spread or applied to larger bread, of course, we have to spread it out so that very few amount would be spread over the area. Prior to that, if you have little with the same amount of peanut butter, of course, more peanut butter would be there on the area. And that's the point of the peanut butter, which is the analysis for the cost, or which is based on the analysis of the cost, that is the peanut butter. Okay, so hopefully that is clear. That is something that we can realize or know of in respect of activity-based costing method or system, and that's the point of why we apply that. So initially, it's going to be costly because we have to really analyze cost per cost and apply like whatever cost that should be applied there. Example, in the short run, that would be the same, but in the long run, it would be variable. So we just have to employ also different ways and techniques to properly compute, for example, the unit cost or the driver cost and the unit cost per driver afterwards. So in that case, we have to know, and that's going to be costly. Anyhow, in the long run, we are more on the long term, so more benefits will be uncovered along the way. Then miscosting can happen because, as what we've said, peanut butter costing is not a thing in traditional. So that's why we apply ABC for accuracy, and improved costing systems will result to meaningful pricing, useful pricing, and with more and improved pricing. So we can, of course, sustain in the long run because profits are determined properly, and then operations can be evaluated or assessed also properly. So that's the thing of activity-based costing. All right. So here's another example that we can have. So out of the following drivers, we can actually divide them to each activities. Of course, the cost versus the activity, or divided by the activity, we get the cost per driver. And then we have the following prime cost. So with these following items, we have, for example, the materials handling, we have the driver that is associated with that. So the challenge here would be the analysis, of course. But for materials handling, probably it's going to be the parts per finished unit. Then for setup costs, that's going to be, no question, setups. For machining costs, the machine hours. For quality control, it would be the, let's check, it could be the batch size, okay? And then we are going to allocate them specifically and get the total plus the prime cost. We get now the total unit cost under activity-based costing, or the ABC. Now, if we use traditional, so we simply have to get the total divided by a certain traditional driver. So I suppose a traditional driver here would be machine hours, 30,000 machine hours, because the direct labor hours would be for the labor, and it has been applied already. Unless if this is not here, so we have to apply 50,000 direct labor hours. Okay, so that's the point or consideration here. If that is the case, let me just recompute. Is it discussed? No, it's not discussed here. So can we just compute for ourselves? So if you're computing as to the factory overhead predetermined rate, the POR, predetermined overhead rate, and then compute the unit cost, then kindly pause for the meantime if you are doing that. And we are going to check if you are really able to get it. All right, we're back. And in fact, it's here. So we just have skipped the part, but To compute the total unit cost under traditional costing system, we have here the overhead rate per machine hour. So that's given 1,800,000 divided by the 30,000 machine hours. Okay, that's true, that's correct. 60 pesos per machine hour. Times how many machine hours per batch? That's 80. So 60 times 80, that's 4,800. The number of units that we have computed for the traditional costing method is 5,000 units, right? That's the batch size, 5,000 equals 0.96. And so that, okay, it's here, the total unit cost under traditional costing is 0.96 plus 5.15, that's 6.11. If we compare that with the total unit cost under based costing is 6.29. So that's higher a bit in terms of activity-based costing versus traditional costing. All right, but we cannot do much analysis here, like what happened, like is it really that when the production would increase, or let's just say the number of units produced, which is still production, would increase, that the reverse can happen for the ABC, which is based on the economies of scale, that the more units are produced, the lesser the cost would there be. But under traditional, the direct relationship would come out. We cannot do that because in our analysis, we just have only like 5,000 units for batch of this particular product. Unlike with the prior or previous problem wherein we have two products and then we have computed the cost under traditional and activity-based. Okay, so at least we just have the example of getting the unit cost for the traditional and for the activity-based. All right. So under the ABC process, we have the following steps. Set up the ABC system, identify the resource driver, so what factors that cause changes in the cost of an activity. And the resource drivers, of course, will talk about the resources or the assets or economic resources of the business. Then we have to identify the activity drivers. So these activity drivers are, of course, what would drive or cause the incurrence of the cost. We have to emphasize the cause and effect relationship, so the activity and the consumption of resources, and the activity and the demands made on it by a cost pool. The cost pool basically is the total factory overhead and then segregated to the components. Then the components would have the different activities associated with that, or the cost driver. Then we have here the 4 levels of variabilities or process levels and the activity or cost drivers that I have tackled in the 2 videos. Then group similar or homogeneous activities in relation to a specific activity driver, of course. So there are certain similar or same activities that have specific activity driver. Then sometimes they have the same, sometimes they don't. Estimate cost based on their cost driver or activity driver. All right, so those are the steps. ABC is very needed for ABM. Here are the benefits: accuracy, continuous improvement, or Kaizen. It's very easy for the management to continuously map, analyze, and study the relationship of a particular cost to the object. And thereby, we can also determine if certain activities are no longer value added or actually value added. So if they're actually value added, so we have to retain them or improve them. If non-value added, we have to analyze if they are necessary. If they're necessary, so we can just reduce, if not eliminate, because they're necessary. We cannot like have them at 0 level. If unnecessary, just like waiting time or queue time or queuing time, you just have to eliminate them or reduce them to the lowest level possible if they cannot be eliminated. Cost, as what I've said, is costly to implement. Product costing, by the way, is not in conformance with the app because activity-based costing may classify research as product cost and plant depreciation, insurance, or taxes as period cost. So under GAAP, remember directly attributable costs for the production, even this one, plant depreciation, insurance, or taxes of the plant, by the way, are components of factory overhead. Therefore, they are part of the production cost, but GAAP may not include them. So that's the point. Although if you are going to ask me, I will still include them in the ABC. So ABC is most applicable to those organizations with products or services that they have significant variations in volume, diversity of activities, and complexity of operations, high overhead costs relative, and there are major or dramatic technological or design changes. So that's the point of using ABC. All right, that was just a review, but then that's quite long. Next, for product lifecycle costing, in this particular case, everyone, we have to know as to the different stages of the life of a product from its inception down to its decline or last part wherein there are no longer or no anymore sales that can be generated or income that can be generated. However, we just have also to take note that in as much we are going to refer to this book, some books would have lesser cycles or lesser phases in the cycle and would have like fewer stages or phases, if those are the terms needed, because here the term is stage or stages. All right, so we have to analyze like the cost on each or in each particular stage. So we have here the cost of units produced, cost of materials, labor, and overhead. So remember the production costs, which are direct materials, direct labor, and factory overhead, are accumulated based on job order costing and process costing. Now, those models which are favored by GAAP, of course, or our IFRSs, are now considered too short-sighted, not comprehensive, erratic, and does not provide decision makers the overall and accurate picture of the entire costing process. Right, because as being included here in our analysis later on, we will know that aside from those traditional costs for the product cost, there can be more costs employed. All right. And then remember, that's the point as what we've said in ABC. If the costs computed are inaccurate, we expect that our prices also will be inaccurate. And in the long run, it will dramatically affect the profitability and sustainability of the business. So that's why we have employed life cycle costing, because from the start of production up to the finish and up to its death or decline or maturity, then we are going to include all costs. So we have to know that there are 5 stages in this book because this includes prior to the startup or the introduction or start. So that's pre-infancy. Probably we have to talk here about research and development costs and expenses. So pre-infancy, which is having sales of 0, allow me to show. And then we have the infancy or the start or introduction. Next to that, or startup, that's also a good word. After that is growth, then expansion, then we have maturity or decline or saturation. That's another term used by other books in production management. So the product life cycle costing is based or related to quality-based business cycle, wherein it is premised on the proposition that quality starts from effective listening to customers. So we have to know what's the need in the market. From there, we are going to create products that would answer or respond to their needs. But prior to that, we have to conduct thorough, or we have to know really properly in a form of marketing research. So marketing research will be part of research alone. Now, after we have determined, for example, the need, we have to, of course, research also the particular details or needs to produce that product and to be able to generate the prototypes in order to use in the production. So that's why there's research again and the development. If, for example, we have determined already the technical feasibility that the product really is saleable and can be sold, has the potential. So we have to develop that. Then we have to design and engineer. We have to process and manufacture it later on to production. Then after that, we are going to market, then distribute. And after that, if the goods are really in the hands of the customers or consumers, then we have to consider also the warranty. So the warranty will be for post-sale services. In the quality-based business cycle for this one, life cycle costing, we have known that the costs are not just here, the production. In fact, we have to also include the others. It has been said that 80% of the total business cycle costs are already locked in or incurred even before the very first unit of product is produced. So these costs here, called the upward costs, really are huge in terms of the cost of the products. This alone would constitute a lot. Whereas in production, we just have to consider only the direct materials, direct labor, and factory overhead, those costs which are needed to produce the product. So we include the upward, the downward, and also the post-sales servicing costs. And these four costs are to be included. Okay, so we have to set aside just the product cost because that's outdated, that's erratic, that's inaccurate under this particular costing. And this approach is strategic in nature because it looks into the strategic pricing and the operating performance and in the long run. So life cycle costing gets the average unit cost over the entire lifespan of a product from pre-infancy down to the maturity or decline or saturation. So computation or sample and life cycle costing, we have 3 years for the product life. And these are the costs from upstream or the upward down to after sale or post sale service costs. And these are the total units to be produced in 3 years. So that's why if we divide that 90 million divided by 15, we get 6 pesos per unit. And then that's the cost. If we set a strategic price that is 200% of the total product cost, it must be 6 times 2, right? That's 200%. So 6 times 2 equals 12. 12 is the price. So the markup is at 100%. Then what about if we set at 150% in the first year, then 400% in the second year, and 120% in the third year? Okay, so simply multiply the cost or unit cost that we have determined. Yeah, that's the unit cost. So these are costs, by the way, so these are not yet the price. Supposedly it should be the unit cost. And then 6, then times 2, the unit sales price is 12. Okay, so 6 times 150% respectively, 9, 24, and 7.2. I repeat, the unit cost is at 6, okay? And then we multiply that with the respective percentages to get the sales price afterwards. At first, that's 9, second, 24, third is 7.2. The learning point here could be is that there is a margin. So 9 minus 6, 3. 24 minus 6, that's 18. 7.2 minus 6 is 1.2. That's first point. Second point is that we can just notice that it's really possible that prices can change during the life or during the stages in the life cycle of a product. We can just notice that supposedly it's at 150% in the first year, and then later on it has increased. So probably my explanation to this one is that initially this is like an introductory cost, which means that prices really can change along the way. And depending on the strategy of the business and the situation, then they can also alter, especially if estimates are changed. So for this one, it's just a matter of the markup that is changed, but the previous estimates are the same in terms of cost and the number of units. But if the production really would change in the long run, like if this is not just 3 years, it would be 10 or 20 years, then along the way, sometime during those 20 years or 10 years, there can be certain changes of the estimates. Okay, so this is just 3 years, that's why it's a matter of markup. Perhaps this is on the penetration pricing strategy, right? And then later on, this would increase and this would decrease. Okay, so thank you very much for listening for the first half or part of strategic management and costing systems and techniques. And I'll see you next time for the second part. Bye.